Hi, I'm John McBride, and thank you for joining us on The Actor's View. Today, we look behind the masks. Today, I'm talking with Roberto Lombardi, one of the stars of Masks, the new horror film from Back to 99 Productions and Philadelphia filmmaker Charles A. Christman III. Thanks for joining us, Roberto. Do you think that the horror genre gets a bad rap or is frowned upon in the film industry, even though it's a moneymaker for many, if not most, companies?
I think that certain elements of the entertainment business have distaste for the horror genre, and it's misplaced because anybody who really, Hollywood, independent, anywhere, it is much easier to get a horror film sold than it is to get an independent, any other genre film sold. You can have a horror that doesn't have any, not even B-list actors in it, sold, where you can't get an indie that has all B-level actors in it sold at all. I think Hollywood has a great respect for horror now because there's just been too many horror franchises that have made them money. It would be kind of hypocritical to be have disdain for the horror genre when it's making Hollywood so much money, especially with the remakes that are out now. And those are of varying levels of, being good and being bad, but that's all opinion. But no, anybody who is an elitist and says, well, if you're not doing Citizen Kane, then you're just wasting your talent. That's a load of shit as far as I'm concerned.
What are your top 5 horror films of all time? No particular order.
My top 5 favorite horror films in no particular order are, obviously, I mentioned this already since I played Freddy Krueger. I love the original Wes Craven version of A Nightmare on Elm Street. I thought the whole story was innovative and fresh and had never been done before, even though it was a slasher pick. Having it take place in dreams and having it done, the special effects at the time and the music, everything about that film, the acting performances, amazing. I can watch that movie over and over and over again with no issues at all. I think it's perfect. John Carpenter's Halloween, again, the original one. For that is a true indie picture. Acting, launching Jamie Lee Curtis the way it did, she's amazing. She's one of my favorite actresses ever. John Carpenter's direction, with really very little blood. It's all atmosphere and extremely chilling and scary with the soundtrack that makes you want to jump out of your seat. It's a great movie. The Exorcist is probably the first film that just flat out scared the hell out of me. My father took me to see it in the theaters when it came out when I was 9 years old. And I remember being in the theater about maybe a third of the way through it, and we got right to the point where I don't know what the hell she did with the voice came out and I just went, "Take me home!" really loud like that in the theater. My dad had to take me home. But yeah, that is, and again, special effects, music, amazing acting. You can't go wrong. You can't do a good horror film without having a great story and amazing acting and fantastic direction and special effects. And that one's at the top. This may surprise a few people, but I'm going to squeeze 2 movies into one. I love Saw 1 and Saw 2. I think that whole torture porn, splatter horror thing, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I just thought the first Saw movie was just, you're like this throughout the whole thing. You don't know who's doing this to them until the very end when the guy gets up off the floor. I just thought it was ingenious. You're getting kidnapped and somebody sticks chloroform on you. The next thing you know, you're in a grungy, run-down bathroom with shit all over the walls, and you've got to figure out a way to get yourself out of these chains, and it dawns on you you've got to saw one of your limbs off to survive. And then they took it a few steps further in part 2. from then on, it got a little less interesting for me, but parts 1 and 2 I really liked a lot. As far as part 5, this could be a lot of different films, but the one that's really coming to my mind right now is probably Friday the 13th, only because I like the fact that you find out that it's not Jason, it's Mrs. Voorhees at the end of the movie who's doing all the killing. And of course I'm talking about the original Friday the 13th. And I just, it's a body count slasher blood movie. And that's really what it is. You don't really find out what the purpose is until the end. And I just thought the first one was really well done. Again, started to go downhill after that.
How did you get involved with this project?
When Anthony first contacted me and asked me if I'd be interested in this movie, immediately my answer was, send me the script. And you know, if the script is something that I want to do, that I think is good, and the scheduling works out, sure, I'd love to do it. So Anthony forwarded me the script, and you know, I read it, and I thought to myself, well, here's something different. First of all, I thought it was something different for me to play, because I haven't played a drug addict before. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, well, this is like this guy's best friend. And as I'm reading it, I'm thinking, you know, he's pretty complicated in a way, because he's a drug addict, and yet here he is with his friend. And I don't want to give anything away with the movie, but I read it, and then once you get into the house and Anthony's character comes into it, it takes this whole left turn into this weird kind of reality, and with, you know, your classic masked figure, but what's under the mask is really interesting. And then there's this whole exchange between the two of us, and then I think the ending of the film was really interesting as well, because my character kind of has this realization about himself. I don't think that gives too much away. And I read it and I thought, well, wow, this is not only is this scary and entertaining, but it's kind of got a meaning to it. It's kind of got something deep about it. So I liked it. So immediately the next thing I did was Google Chuck. And I was like, well, let me see, because I do this with everybody who's new to me that I've never worked with before. I'm like, let me see what this director's done. I'm like, oh, he's got a few movies out, and one of them won some awards. Okay, well, then that means this is somebody that I want to work with, because here you have an up-and-coming writer-director who's winning awards, who just wrote a screenplay that I thought was really pretty damn good. So I contacted Anthony and said, yeah, I'd love to do it. Here I am.
Why should people watch and go see Masks?
People should go and see Masks when it comes out, because it's not going to be exactly like anything they've seen before. Okay? It's a story that's going to start one way and morph into something else. And the best thing I can say about it is it's enjoyable, it's exciting, and it's not typical. That's everything an audience should be looking for when they go and see a film, especially in this genre.
Roberto, thanks again for joining us. And everyone, thank you for tuning in to The Actor's View, Behind the Masks. We hope you've enjoyed our interviews, and we hope you keep an eye out for Masks, a new horror film by Charles A. Christman III and the people at Back to 99 Productions. Thanks again. So long for now.